Okay, thank you everyone. We're heading into the final stretch here. Thank you for staying for the last session of the last day of this conference. I assure you, you won't be disappointed. It'll be well worth your time. So my name is Calla Farn. I'm Vice President of Corporate Affairs for Canadian Stewardship Services Alliance, and I'm delighted to be here today to host this panel. We call it Making Waves, the Innovations Panel. And you're going to hear from a number of innovators today who are changing the industry through their entrepreneurial efforts to reduce waste. And there are a lot of them here today, so let's get started. So first up is Roxanne Dirksen from Trad Worm Industries. This company is a great example of reducing, reusing, and recycling all in one process. It takes organics that otherwise would have gone to landfill and uses it as a feedstock for worms. The worms then do their part and produce an excellent fertilizer and soil enricher. The soils produce more plants and the cycle begins again. Not exactly a high-tech solution, but clearly an effective one. Please welcome Roxanne Dirksen to tell us more about it.
Can I use this clicker? Are you gonna click for me? You're gonna click? I'm gonna, okay. Whew. Okay, I feel super nauseous because I'm not good at public speaking. I'm so grateful that you're gonna just be patient with me, and if I cry, just, let me walk out with some dignity. All right. So hi, I'm Roxanne Dirksen, and I am a worm farmer. Now, that is a crazy story. Like, how does anybody wake up one day and say, dude, I'm gonna farm worms? So about 4 years ago, my kid got sick. And it was one of those things that sort of kicks your ass, breaks your heart, and makes you want to strive for something better. So she was going through chemo, and they said, maybe we shouldn't do any more Tylenol for her to deal with the side effects. Maybe we should do something different. And this was before legalization, so CBD came on the thing. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know anything about it. But then I started doing some homework, and I found out my kid's CBD, which was supposed to be a holistic way to deal with all the side effects, was actually grown in rock wool and chemical fertilizer. And I'm like, whoa, Scooby, no, that can't be good for a little kid. So according to the University of Michigan, they said they had started some research that said cannabis for medicinal purposes was way better grown with using worm castings. I said, okay, I can do that. I like worms. I had a worm bin in my house, a little one, since 1997. So I went to our local college, and I said, I got this idea. And they're like, okay, this is interesting, but really, is it scalable? And I'm like, okay, first of all, farmer, have no idea what that means, know nothing about business, but I know that we need to do better if we're growing stuff for little kids and pediatric patients. So I did a pitch, dropped the F-bomb the first time, cried, left. It was at a bar. I thought everybody'd be drunk, and so nobody would notice that I had, totally flubbed that, but they did. Clearly, I didn't win that one, but I won some other ones. And then I won this pitch competition in Alberta. It was called 150 Startups. And it was a sort of a starting point. So I won a little bit of money. And so I bought some worms, like a sort of a bigger quantity of worms. And that right there was our very first, that was my $10,000 spent on worms. If people get $10,000 to go on a holiday, I friggin' spent it on worms. There's a disconnect in what I should be doing in my retirement age. But anyways, so I bought these worms, and I thought, okay, I am gonna feed. Did you know that there's something called worm chow, which is for commercial worm producers? It's like puppy chow, but it's like puppy chow, but it's for worms. I'm like, okay, don't worms eat garbage? So then we started really figuring out how to get a supply chain for organics. So it takes 5 times as much organics to produce one of castings. So if you produce 10 pounds of castings, which is actually called worm manure, that's the nice name for it, it takes 50 pounds of organics. So we started figuring out a way how to get our hands on really clean organics. So what does organics mean? And this is sort of a misnomer, and we see this a lot, because people are like, oh, okay, so you feed them old vegetables. I said, well, we can feed them way, way, way more stuff. Fabric, which is a huge one. We feed more fabric to these little worms than you can shake a stick at. They don't particularly like polyester. They love burlap sacks. That's their favorite. But we can still feed it to them, and we're not really sure if it's the decomposers that are in the beds or if it's something else that actually eat all of it. And it comes out into this amazing soil amendment. So we feed hair. They don't like dyed hair, but we go to the local college and they have a hair program and they do that. Drywall, and now, one of the other few things that we've been working on is sort of a research thing, grease. We have a problem getting rid of grease, and especially really gross grease. So what we do is we built these old, we took old fuel tanks and built composters, and we run them through a 21-day cycle with some other stuff in it and break them down into shorter chains, and those we can feed to worms. So according to the University of Calgary, they did a study in 2015 about how many organics are actually in your garbage. And they said between 65 and 75%. With this sort of pre-running of the compost, we can get that number up to 80, 85. So we don't feed plastics yet, but we're figuring a way out to do that. And we don't feed chemicals, but pretty much, and stuff that's super recyclable like glass and metal, we don't feed either. But those sort of fringe organics, we totally feed. So I had to write a business plan to be in these pitches, which I didn't know what that was either. And I didn't know what a circular economy was, but living on a farm with old German parents and a good Baptist mama, let me tell you about learning about circular economy. If you don't eat that apple core all the way to the end, you get publicly shamed to your brothers and your sisters, and you're like this, what are you putting us into the poorhouse? So I didn't know that circular economy was a thing. I thought it was a lifestyle. So that's how we live at our place. And so what we do, which is really, really cool, is we pick up textiles. Usually people donate them to us, and we make all of the bags that we sell to the domestic market, not to big commercial, but in these little bags. So we have a bunch of Mennonite women who sew these bags for us, and they sew thousands and thousands, and we do them in all different sizes. And then people bring back the bags, or they pay a deposit on their bags, and so I'm all on the deposit thing, Maya, because they pay deposits on the bags and then they bring them back. But all of these bags can be composted as well. So once the end of life of these bags happen, we just chuck them into the beds. Also too, we are a low or no consumer company. So basically, we try not to buy anything. Everything that we do is either sourced and reused from some other project, which is, woo, I'm nervous. Sorry, and I gotta talk faster, I'm not gonna make it through here. So, are you ready? So everything we have has been slated either for the landfill or to be demolished and recycled in a different way. And so you'll see right here, there's chem totes. So we take them, clean them. We try not to use the glyphosate ones. We take them to a place where we can safely sort of discard all the gross out of them. And the totes that are down there, they would end up in the landfill. We clean them, we cut them, and then we use them for our purposes. Okay, so does this really work? Lots of people are like, oh, yeah, it smells like BS, but it isn't. It totally does work. It is remarkable. These little worms, this primitive technology has been around such a long time. They've developed the ability to have this beautiful sort of copacetic relationship with plants, and they help them grow. So these are actually true to form. So one with castings, one without castings. You can see the robust nature of worms and castings. So we started out sort of trying to support the cannabis industry for medical pediatric patients. We do a lot with the MS Growing Society, but it translates to anything we grow, and our growing practices nowadays need a little bit of help. As a lifelong farmer, I tell you, I spent more time and money dumping chemicals onto our land to help stuff grow. And here's one aspect to get our soil back to where it can sort of efficiently grow the way it's supposed to. So one of the coolest things, I have no idea what we're doing for time. One of the coolest things that we're doing right now, oh, shoot, okay, we're done. Oh, okay. I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm going to hold on and talk really fast. Are you ready? So we're partnered with our local. So one of the big things that we're doing for innovation is worms are like any herd. They have a protocol. And what we're doing is we're trying to figure out a way, well, we're already doing it. We're figuring out a way to put big modular worm farms on site. So the Medicine Hat College right now is building us a remote monitoring session so that we can handle all of their organics that are being produced there. So they are going to be a zero organic landfill company or college. It'll be the first one in all of Alberta, which is so friggin' cool. Anyways, you can see the rest of them. Okay, I'll keep going. So the other thing is too, right, you know how you see the Jenny Craig commercials, you take a pill and you're a size 00? Well, I don't want to tell you that worm castings are the end-all, be-all. So we put our money where our mouth was, and we're a startup company that I'm bootstrapping ourselves. We did research, and so much research this year. We worked with CWA, who is basically they're the Waterside Association, and our waters are so delicate. We don't want to keep putting all this glyphosate and all this eutrophication and leachate and all this crap in our water. We went and we did all of their trees and recovered and did all of the data recovery. Okay. We elementary schools, we're doing an earth building. Okay, I'm done. Okay, that's me. Woo!
Holy cow, I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. Jesus. Okay. I learned more about worm poop than I've known in my whole life. That was a great presentation, so thank you, Roxanne. Next up is Matt Moreau, who has been with the Earth Group since it started in 2005 when it was known as Earth Water. Matt has played a key role in the company's expansion into the United States and Europe, as well as the launch of new products such as Earth Coffee and Earth Tea. Over to you, Matt.
Holy smokes, that's tough to follow. Roxanne, you're an absolute natural. I don't know what you're talking about nerves. That's your mate to speak publicly. So, my name is Matt. I'm one of the co-founders of an Edmonton-based social enterprise called the Earth Group. And we exist entirely to feed and educate children. And we do that in partnership with the United Nations World Food Program. So my business partner, Corey, and I, we both grew up in Edmonton when what we thought was pretty normal existence. Grew up playing hockey, coming out to Jasper on ski trips, never went to bed hungry, never went to school hungry. And we were lucky enough to kind of get outside of Canada's borders at a young age and kind of pretty quickly realized that we lived a very, very sheltered life. We totally grew up in a bubble. And so we both came home from these trips kind of hoping to address the inequality in the world. And so we started a bottled water company, which I know is not going to go over well, but give me 5 minutes and we'll get there. Literally, we started with a bottled water company called Earth Water with the idea of giving all of our profits back to the United Nations to provide water aid for people around the world. And day one, no one would sell our product, so we made a booth and we put it up on White Ave in Edmonton, and we would just walk up and down White Ave, Jasper Ave with a backpack full of water, knocking on cafes and restaurant stores saying, hey, you got a fridge full of Coke and Pepsi product. Is there any way you'd be willing to give us just one tiny little facing? And we're going to talk to your customers and everyone and share what we're doing, the profits of this company. So as I say, Earth Water was the first company. Corey's grandpa, he donated a van to us, and we'd pack it full of water and cruise around town and make deliveries. And in the afternoons, we'd try to grow the company a bit. We had one cell phone and a laptop back in those days, and you would call it and it would be kind of, press 1 for sales and press 2 for marketing, 3 for accounting, and it would all just beep right to the same cell phone. And we would just be so excited that someone was calling and trying to hear a bit of our story. So next up, we launched Earth Coffee. It's all fair trade, certified organic coffee. We actually have buyers that go out into the fields to ensure that people are working in safe conditions, that they're getting paid fair, equitable wages. Every time we sell a package of coffee, we can feed and educate a child for an entire week. Earth Tea was our next product. Similar thing. This is actually a farm that we grow it on just outside of Westlock. Beautiful, incredible spots. This family that we met at the farmers market, they were having a bit of trouble selling their products, so we partnered with them. And they don't actually allow any vehicles on site there. The tea is all picked by hand, washed and dried in the sun. Just an unbelievable story there. And again, what that means for us is that we kind of know exactly where our product is coming from. So we're happy with the way things are going today. The company's doing well, but if we wind back about kind of 6 or 7 years, it was a very, very different story. And we were pretty well entirely bankrupt. We went from a team of 9 down to 2. we lost our offices, we suspended our salaries. Corey and I took on second and third jobs. It was incredibly, incredibly close to the edge, but we really, really just believed in our model and had seen that it had worked. And so we just dug our heels in and kind of weathered the storm. We had manufacturers who were providing us with faulty products. They would send shipments out that, stuff would be falling all over the place. We had a couple people come on board who had been very successful in the business world, sold companies. We thought these guys knew exactly how to take us to the next level. Turns out they had entirely different values than we did, and tried to move the company in a different direction. So just a whole host of issues that hit us all at once. Got so bad that we would go out on sales trips and didn't have any money for hotels. So we'd sleep in the back of a van, and we'd find a Starbucks in the morning to go and brush our teeth and steal some internet. And then in all the major cities that you go, you can always find an IKEA, which thank God has that 99-cent breakfast, so we'd go there. Fast forward to today, all the IKEAs in the country are carrying our product. We're currently bidding on the US, Japan. We're fingers crossed waiting on a phone call to get to go to Sweden to pitch our product to them. Things are starting to go really well for us. You can find our product, Hilton Hotels just signed up as well, and we're talking about with them globally. We just listed with Loblaws, Safeway, Sobeys. There's actually a few hotels here in the Jasper area that carry our product, just tons. I mean, our whole story is that you're buying these products anyways, coffee, water, tea. Instead of maybe buying from that massive Coke or Pepsi or Nestle company, buy from a company like us who's trying to do make a bit of change in the world. So I talked in the bottled water thing. It really weighs heavily on us. We know that bottled water is a stupid industry. We're probably the only owners of a water company who encourage people not to drink it. But the reality is it's the fastest growing segment of our market. And as people switch away from sugary drinks, they're consuming more and more water. So we're saying, again, if you're going to buy it from someone other than Coke and Pepsi. And we're looking at our waste cycle as well. So about 2 years ago, we started thinking about this whole plastic issue and found a company that can put water in an aluminum can. And as far as we know, we're the only ones in Canada right now that are bottling water in an aluminum can. We just launched this 2 weeks ago, and already the interest level has been absolutely massive. We've got KLM and Air France and Air Canada who we've met with. Again, Loblaws just listed it. Hilton Hotels is looking at it. IKEA also has samples in their office. Gordon Food Service, Airmark, talking about national distribution programs for colleges and campuses. So we're, the aluminum product, it's infinitely recyclable. It takes less energy to create it. If it's recycled, which it is recycled at a higher rate than plastic, it takes so much less energy to recycle a plastic or an aluminum bottle than a plastic one. So we're very aware of our impact on the planet. We're trying to minimize that wherever we can, and we're super excited to have this product now. So what does this all mean? All these great stories I'm trying to tell here. We've, since that moment about 7 years ago, when Corey and I were sitting in his backyard, and we were literally minutes away from giving each other a hug. We had actually met in a ski shop, and that's where we started kind of chatting about all this. We honestly thought maybe we should go back and see if they're hiring because things were that close to the edge. But since that moment, we've been able to fund 4 million school meals for kids around the world, and we really, really just think we're getting started here. We were in Sri Lanka last year funding 800,000 school meals for kids. These programs are just unbelievable. These kids have a safe place to go during the day. They're getting free food, free water, and that all-important free education. And these programs are literally lifting communities out of poverty. And that's all happening because consumers and corporations are buying a product like this versus that Coke or Pepsi product. So I'm really thankful to get the chance to share a bit of our story today. I'm hanging out for the rest of the afternoon and would love to chat with anyone who has any questions. Oh, also, I should say we're a B Corp as well. So we just got that certification, which we're really pumped about too. So the only product in the world to carry a UN logo as well. So we're pumped, and hopefully I can chat a bit further after this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. And I should have mentioned we don't have time for questions after each one, but all of the innovators will be at lunch, and we'll, feel free to look any of them up to ask them questions or to have further discussion. That was great. Thanks, Matt. Okay. Rob Ironside is an environmental engineer and co-founder of Fresh Roots, a mobile food market in Calgary. But Rob is also Operations and Social Enterprise Director for the Leftovers Foundation, which keeps nutritional food out of the landfill and redirects it to those who need it most. Thanks to Rob's work, national grocery chains are now sending almost 5 tons of food per week to social service agencies. And Rob's here to tell us more about this innovation.
Thank you very much. I'm also going to try to talk as fast as I can. All right. So I'm talking here about curbing food waste at Leftovers. I'll quickly go over who Leftovers is, and then if you want to know more about Fresh Roots, you're going to have to find me later. So Leftovers is an organization that exists to do one thing, and that is to keep good food out of landfill. It is a resource, not a problem. How do we do that? We partner with local organizations. We mobilize our community members through an app on a weekly route basis, and we are trying our best to upcycle as much of this product as we can with some cool collaborations. So we make ice cream out of bananas that have overripened. We make beer out of peaches with local breweries that have hilarious branding portfolios. And so you can see we can just find these products, process them, and use them for better things than filling up landfills. Some of our stats from last year, like we're a really small, like bootstrap charity based out of Calgary, and we're keeping hundreds of thousands of pounds out of landfill with a pretty small team. And so we're hoping to unlock some more resources to be able to scale this across the province and hopefully the country. So why do we exist? Food waste is a problem that I know everybody is aware of, and a lot of people talk about that 40% of food is wasted. A new report came out of Second Harvest, which is a food waste organization in Ontario, where that number is actually closer to 60% of the food either grown or imported into Canada we waste. So that's a lot of delivery services, growing, importing, bringing food from Mexico and putting it inside a heated building inside of a frozen climate so that you can drive it home and put it inside a chilled box inside of a heated area in a cold climate to then forget about for 2 weeks and then to throw out, and then now it's somebody else's problem. Somebody in this room has to come by and pick that up and put it in a landfill. And we do that, as silly as it sounds, over and over and over again, till we do that more often than we don't. And so we waste over half the food that we either grow or import. Out of that 60%, 32% of that is edible. There's two different types of food waste. There's food loss, which is inevitable, and food waste. About half of it is edible food waste, which has a monetary value of about $50 billion. So for the entrepreneurs in the room, that's $50 billion worth of free inputs that people are happy to give you. So that's where the upcycling potential comes in. The main reason why I had to give you a bit of context about who we are is about a project called Loop, and this is like our innovation, but I feel like a fraud calling it an innovation because it's not really that innovative, but we're the only ones doing it. So there is a hierarchy to food waste. When you have excess food, and it's not garbage, it's excess food, the first thing you want to do is try to reduce that over time. The next thing you want to do is feed people with that. If you can't feed people, feed animals. If you can't feed animals, send it to those worms. If you can't feed it to the worms, then you put it in a landfill. There's a lot of options that we should be considering, and if we view it as a resource, there's a lot of opportunity for it, and this system just doesn't exist. When people talk about banning food waste at a national level, we would be inundated with food that we'd have nothing to do with because nobody's invested in the system to do stuff with it, even though it is a resource. Our only option, and what we've been doing for decades, is putting it in a landfill. So I'm going to talk about our program here with Loop Resources. Loop Resources is not from the company yesterday, but another local company, which essentially just builds a network of farms around a city, partners with local box store, grocery stores, and has a 7-day-a-week pickup schedule. So a farmer goes every day of the week and picks up all of their excess produce that's scanned out that morning and brings it to their farm and uses it as feed. That's their model. It's a 7-day pickup. They're able to give, the biggest thing that they're able to do is they're able to give data by department by day. So they can tell you how much produce you waste on Mondays, how much produce you waste on Fridays, and for all of the departments, bakery, produce, frozen section, dry goods, they do it by department. And I think everybody in this room knows that what gets measured gets managed, and having data like that is essential to these stores. So we came in and said, hey, that's a really cool system. And so they added this step. So this is what we normally do. This is what people think is the right solution, which is just to go straight from a grocery store to a compost bin. But like I said, there's a lot of options before that. And so they kind of moved that dial up a little bit and said, okay, well, what if we go straight from there to farm? That's feeding animals. That's pretty high up the list. It's a lot better than throwing it out. And we said, well, one of the issues for us is that we can't work with big box stores because there's so much volume and so much variability that no charity, no kitchen can handle that. Farms can. Farms are an amazing net that can catch all of that because they're so versatile and can handle that volume. So what if we were able to partner with somebody who had that and just added one extra step? So all we do now is we coordinate charities that are locally in town, and they go to the box store, they pick it up on a daily basis, take it back to their kitchen, sort through what they're gonna use. That way, not like creating food waste just one step down the line. They only take what they're gonna start preparing that day and putting into meals for that week, and freezing those meals and processing those meals, and then whatever they don't use, that goes to a farm. And so as we go through that system, this is the results that we get. So because we're measuring stuff now, over a 6-month period, most box stores are able to reduce their food waste coming out the back end by over 50%. What is left of what's still going to charities, we're able to recover about 30 to 60% of those loads are going into the charities. And then what's left of that goes to feeding animals and compost bins on farms. And so that entire system has a 98% usage rate before anything even thinks about going to the landfill. And this is, like I said, there's no new technology, there's no new company, we didn't manufacture anything different than anybody. All we did is create a schedule. And like farmers have had trucks and trailers forever, so it's not like we like invented anything crazy. It's not that. So what are the actual impacts? We maximize the potential of a resource, we don't haul away a problem. That's the major shift that we need to think about when we're looking at waste, is that these are not, it's not garbage, it's not a waste station, it's a resource station. We're trying to separate resources so that we're able to reclaim them. For those haulers in the room, imagine a hauling company where you don't need dumpsters, you don't need like gigantic trucks. Like, it's pretty easy to undercut other people when you don't have any overhead. We get data by department. So like I said, that reduces food waste. And overall, we're able to have significant impact on these service agencies. So one agency was able to reduce, or was predicting that the reduction is going to be about $70,000 in savings, which they can invest in addiction recovery programs instead of on a kitchen. And so my one ask for everybody in this room is on Monday to look up the Avoidable Crisis of Food Waste. This was done by an organization outside of Ontario. It is the best summary of food waste in Canada. There's a 30-page report, takes 5 minutes, or if you're into data, you can read the 122-page one. And if you're not going to do, in addition to that, it goes through each section so you can break it down and see where the issues are. And if you're not going to do that, you can download our app and help us fill our routes every week. If you're in a different county where we don't exist, get in touch with us and we'll help launch our app in your county. Or if you're just an organization looking to invest in somebody that's trying to do good with some excess food, then you can let us know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Sometimes the simple solutions are the best solutions, so very well done. I'm now pleased to welcome 3 students from Ecole Pine Grove Middle School. And if you went to the banquet last night, you will know that they actually received R's for Excellence Award, so congratulations to them. Anna Peyton is 11 years old and in grade 7. Her favorite subject is science. And other favorites include chocolate, cross-country running, baseball, and the color sunset orange. Now, not regular orange, sunset orange. And if you close your eyes, you could probably see exactly what she means by that. Addison Crowe is 13 and in grade 8, and she loves to play hockey, golf, and soccer. Key. Sorry, my apologies. Key, Addison Key.
It's me.
Sorry, Addison. My apologies. You love to play, yes, hockey. That should have been a clue. Golf and soccer. Sorry, Addison. And Gracie Baker, also 13, likes to draw, paint, and is active in archery, badminton, soccer, swimming, and basketball. They're joined today by their vice principal of Pine Grove, Helen Payette, and Roger Redman. He's a teacher at the school and also involved in running the school's recycling program. So please join me and welcome Addison, Anna, and Gracie. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gracie. I'm Anna.
I'm Addison. So the process that we had was we developed goals, we performed a waste audit and practices and review in 2018. We took recommendations, program implementation, yearly review in 2019, and additional education. Staff from the school approached the Edson and District Recycling Society to improve the way we handled waste in our school.
In 2018, we found that most of our landfill was made up of organics and recycling. The total amount of waste per week was 200 kilograms.
Here you can see our garbage bin graveyard. It is a shed full of our old garbage bins that we no longer need. Our breakfast program now uses compostable dishes and cutlery and buys bulk items instead of single-use or single-serving items. Bathroom compost bins are also in place to capture hand towels and tissues.
We also implemented new recycling and compost bins. We reduced the size of garbage cans. We educated staff and students about recycling and composting. We inspired the community, direct and indirect impacts. Another big accomplishment of ours is the impact this has had on us as students, staff, and other people and businesses in the community. Tons of us have brought what we learned at school home with us and taught our families about waste reduction, recycling, and composting. We now use lots of these bins around school.
We had a significant change in the amount of waste thrown away. As mentioned before, it was 200 kilograms per week and is now changed to 20 kilograms per week.
The composition of what was being thrown away remained fairly similar to the results from the year before. We believe that this material comes from the things that students leave behind at the end of each day.
Accomplishments in 2019. We took contests, we continued education, and we also developed education for community users. Some more things we accomplished include taking part in 2 contests. One was aimed at working towards zero waste in classrooms. Many classrooms had no waste over the course of the whole week. Mr. Redman's class, the one that I was in, were actually the winners of that contest. The other contest we did was a sorting challenge. The recycling depot also came and gave us a refresher presentation about what goes where. We are striving to improve every day.
Finally, we'd like to thank the many people who had a big hand in our program and getting it up and running. Without them, it wouldn't have been such a success. Thank you, Ecole, Pine Grove Administration, staff and students, Addison District Recycling Society, GFL, Cochrane Environmental Composting Program, Bush Systems, Clean River Recycling Solutions, and Eco Trainer.
Thank you to everyone from the Ecole Pine Grove Middle School. Please do keep up the good work. You're great role models for other schools. Okay, next up is Carlos Fiorentino. Let me try that again. Carlos Fiorentino. There it is, there it is. And my apologies, Carlos, but if I read your whole bio, there wouldn't be any time for you to talk. So I'm gonna keep it really, really tight. So let me just say that Carlos is a visual communications designer, design educator, and researcher. He teaches in the Department of Art and Design and the Department of Human Ecology at the University of Alberta, and in the Design Studies program at MacEwan University. Carlos is co-founder of the Biomimicry Alberta Regional Network, founder of the Design for Sustainability Research Group, and more recently, the U of A Biomimicry Innovation Hub. Carlos.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm not gonna talk that fast as the first speakers talk, so I will try, but I don't think I can. So I'm here to talk about not a product or a particular innovation solution, but a prospect for innovation, and that's what biomimicry is. And it's about nature and waste and the relation of both. So I assume that not too many people might know or might hear about biomimicry. Can you please raise your hand if you know what biomimicry is? Okay, my estimation is about 35% maybe, which is good. Is really high, I would say. So I don't need to explain too much, but I will try to do a biomimicry 101 in 20 seconds. so we can be on the same page. So biomimicry is basically an emerging design discipline in an interdisciplinary field. Biomim means life, and mimicry means emulate. So that's the core. It's a new design methodology that proposes learning from nature and sees nature as a mentor, as a model, and as a measure. And what we observe or learn from nature is strategies, mechanisms, and ways of doing things. So applying this knowledge in ideas to solve human problems is the idea of implementation for biomimicry, or make better design systems, or design better processes. And that first allowed us to avoid problems that we usually create by designing awful things. As a designer, I take responsibility about that. Do I use the clicker or? Okay. Here we go. I forgot the clicker, sorry. So, we might think about nature as a system that also has waste. And basically the picture that you see there is a picture of what we could say that's a wasteful product of nature. However, the concept of waste is non-existent in nature. Everything is recycled, 100%. Sometimes upcycled, sometimes downcycled, and then upcycled again. So imagine a perfect circle, and when we talk about circularity or circular economies, circularity is a biomimetic concept. So I ask my students very often when we talk about sustainability, there was a lot of ideas around sustainability in this conference. What is more sustainable than nature? If you know, please raise your hand again. Yeah, as I expect, 0%. We are on the same page. We are surrounded by incredible solutions, incredible strategies, and incredible materials, and incredible, let's call it designs, quotation marks, all around us. It's just a matter of paying attention. It's just a matter of understanding how those systems work and try to apply it. If you do that, the concept of waste could be eliminated. I mean, I know it's a concept and it's a process, and you might say, oh, but we are in the middle of a nightmare, which is true. So let's talk a little bit about that nightmare. Let's skip this one. I consider that we live in a sort of a design dystopia. It's not a dystopian future, it's a dystopian present. We heard today morning how much plastic we create, still new plastic, and it's not recycled, and it's dumped in the oceans and the landfills. We are still there. We are not moving toward a future that is nearly close to what nature does, unfortunately. So, a little bit more about bad news. I like to scare people a little bit, but this is what we do, designers, and when we create packaging and design solutions nowadays. We create a mess. We create what I call monstrosities, involving transit, involving the way we move, the way we ship things, the way we create new products. And we know these things, how many things can imply. I'm pretty familiar. I'm pretty sure that you're familiar with this picture. This is a family picture from Alberta, I guess. This is how the old sun looked from the air. So we are messing up with nature in so many ways, and everything is interconnected. Everything is entangled. Whatever we do, whatever we put in the market, it might have to do with some products that leads to the same way of doing things. In biomimicry terms, they call heat, beat, and treat. That's the way we do things. We don't do the things at the pace nature creates. We don't grow things in the same way. And we know the consequences. I think the picture on the left is Melbourne, and the picture on the right is here in Alberta again. the fires in Fort McMurray. So we know that climate change is being accelerated, but many issues that connect the way we do things, the way we create waste, and the way we cannot manage it. In fact, if you think about waste, it's not a management problem. Sorry to say that. Many will think that the future is managing waste. No, the future is eliminating waste. So it's a design problem. We need to change the system, and then perhaps we can do a better management work. I'm going to wrap it up because I only have 30 seconds. So back to the initial idea. If you think we are consumers, think twice. Nature is a consumer. It consumes 100% of what it takes. We don't. That's key. When we shift that paradigm in our minds, that change of mindset, we will start to do better things and better designs. So last thing that I'm going to show you is there is a web page that you can see, because you might wonder, yes, but how? I told you it was a prospect, not a product or a service. But if you take a look to the Biomimicry Global Design Challenge, especially students, there are many students involved in this global contest. There is right now about 100 solutions, new solutions to eliminate waste, or at least manage waste. They are all innovative, and they are all biomimetic projects. You can take a look to the website. And finally, if you want to know more about us, the group in Alberta, you can go to biomimicryalberta.com and join us and be part of the community. And that's it. Thank you.
Wow, you've certainly given us a lot to think about in how we approach this whole issue. Thank you very much for that. Now, Chris and Laura Grant of the Bike Shop, you may again recall them last night because they too are a winner of the R's of Excellence Award. Laura has always been able to connect people, community, ideas, and things. Diagnosed with MS while working in pharmacy almost 40 years ago, Laura knows the importance of science and education. Today, she develops the bike swap software and processes so that the rest of the world can put on bike swaps. Chris calls himself a barnyard engineer. He can figure out how things go together and improve them so they actually work. Chris recently retired as an instrumentation engineer, but is busier than ever taking to market a patent-pending product for RV protection. Please welcome Chris and Laura Grant.
Is this the clicker?
That's the clicker, darling.
That's the clicker. Okay, there we go.
Put that
Thank you.
down there.
Thank you. I'm short on one end.
You're looking down here.
Hi. Okay, thank you. Hi. We'd like to save the world one bike at a time. We're Alberta Bike Swap. We've both been cycling for decades. I'm used to walking around a lot. We've been cycling for decades, especially cycle commuting. That's Lansdowne, incidentally, which is what is now Edmonton. Just outside of Edmonton, just over Whitewood Freeway. My family named it Lansdowne, just for reference sake. And just because a person can cycle doesn't necessarily mean that they should. There's actually no funding for cycling safety. If we spend, your turn.
Okay. So we like to look at ourselves as saving the world one bicycle at a time. And how do you do that, Chris and Laura? Well, we started with a one-day bicycle buy, sell, and donate event. A consignment sale, people bring us their good used bikes that they're not comfortable selling online, or may not do the online thing, and we look after selling it for them. And if it didn't sell, they had the option to donate it into the community through us, where it would get out to one of our community partners who would help it continue its life cycle.
And we've always donated more than half the profit back to the community from our bike swap events so that we can fund safe cycling throughout Alberta.
What you do with your examples of those safe cycling products, darling?
Here we go.
There we go.
Here's one.
Safe cycling poster we have a number of them, because companies will encourage their people to ride to work, but they don't provide the education on how to do that safely.
So,
and then the other is kind of a smaller version of that, our safe cycling card, the top 10 rules of the road. Reminder, we're all in this together on the road. We need to share that space, and then what information to collect in the event of a collision.
Go ahead.
Let's avoid that. One of the key things is we see an awful lot of emphasis on creating infrastructure. How much education are we offered? How do we get to and from that infrastructure safely? So we believe in the power of the bicycle to save the world, but you have to know how to use it in order to get there safely.
So we were cycling home one December, and I signaled right to turn right, and a cyclist passed me on the right. And I said that was the impetus for us to go home, and we started with an idea. And there was nothing out there for what we did because Alberta is a go home or go big or go home place. So this is what we did.
So we had the idea of the one-day event, the bike swap, but to do that, we had to create our bike racks. And we've got a good friend here today, in Rob, who has come by our place a number of times to pick up the racks to be used at community events to give people transportation options, green transportation options to get to events and stuff. So we had to build bike racks, we had to design the paperwork and the processes to run this event, and eventually got to the point where we couldn't do it all in paper. We had to create some software, and
This is where I come in. I'm a software designer in real life, so go ahead. So we picked up a lot of friends along the way. Big cities, little cities. We registered bikes through the bike index at the end. The police introduced bike index at the city of Edmonton through our bike swap. And we have partners we lovingly say as big as AMA and as small as Bikes for Badgers, which rebuilds the bikes. We have over 30 strategic alliances across Alberta.
Bikes for Badgers is an example of our recycling partner in that 670 MTB in Medicine Hat worked with us to collect the bicycles that were donated. They had the option to triage bikes and say, okay, this bike, a few adjustments, some air in the tires, it's good to go in the sale. They sold it. We're very good at being a nonprofit. We didn't charge them any fees for selling anything in the sale, and they could use that money to support their programs. Admission fees went back to those community partners to fix up the bikes that were donated that they took. Okay. So we had now Bike Edmonton,
Sports Central,
Two-Wheel View in Calgary. The Good Life Community Bike Shop is gone. Okay, you can have them.
Okay. We lovingly say we provide transportation security because we donate a lot of bikes to the food banks in Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, for example. So let's talk about how a bike swap works, okay? So if you have a bike to sell, you bring it to us during the intake time. And then we have a bunch of tech checkers that tech check every single bike. The software records who you are and the serial number, and that goes through the app will eventually go through the stolen bike index. And then you pay us an entrance fee, and then you go away and we sell your bike for you. Simple as that, and then we e-transfer you or send you a check for the amount that you sold, that you have set the price for your bike. We had about 15,000 to 18,000 attendees last year. They're not little events, they're really big events.
Okay.
Oh,
next slide, please,
okay,
Darlene.
next slide.
Oh, that's what a bike swap looks like.
This is what a bike swap looked like in 2014. We limit the number of people in at about 600 at a time. They're huge events. And this is how many hits we have on our website, which is still not Google driven, but still we have that many hits. We can grow that much by every single year. Okay? And we started off with events in Calgary, Edmonton, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, and Red Deer. And then I'll let you talk.
Okay, thank you. But along the way, lots of people want to get in on the action. So we've provided coaching to the society that helps support programs at the Montreal Children's Hospital. Somebody from Hinton here? Oh, I thought I saw on the attendees list somebody from Hinton. We help provide some coaching there. And we've had invitations from around the world.
We were invited to an international innovations event to put on to talk about can we put on bike swaps anywhere else. So I can't just hand you a mobile phone and say, here, put on a bike swap. So what I'm going to do is, there's actually a lot more. So the app, the software will now be on an app, cloud-based, and anybody can put on a bike swap anywhere in any city. So if you want to talk to me about it, let's talk. Let's save the world. We can all save the world one bike at a time this way. And it's not just the processes. There's more to it than that.
It's not just the app.
It's not just the app, pardon me.
It's the whole event in a box or in a digital file.
Yeah.
How to put it on, what are all the volunteer positions and that type stuff. And there we go. 38 seconds to spare. What are we going to do?
Leave. Thank you. I know what am I talking about. One of the reasons we had to stop is because I broke my back, and I can't so much as lift a bike rack anymore, and I certainly can't ride a bike ever again. So this is why we're helping the world the best way we can.
Thank you very much. Laura, you just couldn't give up those 38 seconds, could you? Thank you very much. That was great. Peter Duck holds a master's degree in environmental studies and has served on a number of local and national environmental advisory committees. He is a regional coordinator for the Bow Valley Waste Management Commission. From his office at the Francis Cooke Resource Recovery Center, his work looks up the waste stream to municipalities, NGOs, and businesses to help ensure the circular economy becomes a reality. Please welcome Peter Duck.
Never give the podium to a compulsive explainer and ask them to do it in 7 minutes. Just to continue the theme that we had yesterday, I brought my bottle of shampoo along. I'm noted for having a thick head of hair. But this is my extended user responsibility program. I've had this little bottle of shampoo for about 1.5 years now, and it's been to Europe, it's been around Canada. It's well-designed container. It's survived that travel. It's designed to get through airport security because of its size. My contribution. Those who go in circles shall be known as big wheels. Let's go, circular economy. I spent many years in this environment, just a tip of the hat to the fact that we are in a World Heritage natural ecosystem, and I spent many years guiding up and down this highway, explaining ecosystems to people, talking about climate change, and trying to do that education thing. And then about 2006, I shift over, at the same time I was doing a little bit of waste management through the 1990s and enjoying that, but in 2006 I switched over to working for the Bow Valley Waste Management Commission. And instead of working in this, I got a job in a moonscape. The place I work is dirt, it's dust, it's wind, it's litter, but it's beautiful. One of the neatest things about that place is to bring a group of school kids in, and that's their first reaction. And then you start talking to them about what's going on there, and they start seeing the people. And I'm going to stop talking shortly and just press go and let the slideshow talk about the circular economy is people as much as the materials that we've been talking about for the last couple of days. Green is go.
Next up is Roxanne Dwigu. She's an engineer with a background in disaster response, alternative building technology, and small business. She has worked in Pakistan, Thailand, and Haiti, where she helped set up a waste-to-resource program that turned waste polystyrene into blocks used to build buildings that were earthquake resilient. Roxanne helped to grow grassroots initiatives to mitigate the effects of mismanaged waste, to produce local opportunities, to produce incomes, and to build safe and culturally appropriate homes. Roxanne, please join us.
Okay. Adjust this a little bit for my height. Well, thank you. I'm thrilled for the opportunity to be here today. There we go. This case study involves repurposing waste polystyrene as a seismically resilient building material. The program encompasses several aspects, including waste management, livelihoods, safe housing, capacity building, and the overall resilience of communities. Today's content will be more focused on the waste management aspects. Specifically, I'll be outlining the process of using discarded products as a building material, namely the single-use meal trays plaguing Haiti's landscape. So get cozy. We're about to go on a little journey together, peppered with my 2 cents along the way. For full disclosure's sake, the project as a whole is currently on hiatus and has been since 2016. Although it's frustrating to consider the effect that this current lack of action has on the local team, I'm endeavoring to take as many lessons from it as possible. Before we begin in earnest on the next slide, I generally begin this presentation with a disclaimer of sorts, out of respect for the local team. I often find that the portrayal of Haiti is unbalanced. It's a nation that is grappling with many issues, and it's a situation that's hard, but it's not hopeless. In my experience, Haiti is a vibrant and complex place, full of people dedicated to building a better tomorrow. And I believe that that message is worth noting. Still, several factors make life difficult, particularly in the capital of Port-au-Prince. Due to the lack of infrastructure and governance, the waste management issue can be almost unimaginable. I was very familiar with the types of images that Lindsay showed earlier today. And for example, here, the canal shown here on the left is filled with waste. And a large proportion of that waste is the single-use discarded meal trays that you can see here floating on top. The photo on the right is the same canal after a significant rainfall event, which means that all of that material has now washed out into the ocean. Now, this is one canal in one part of the city. You can imagine this situation playing out not only all over Port-au-Prince, but around the world. It's not a wonder, then, that we have the situation with the Five Gyres and ocean plastics. This thought is what I presented to the local Haitian team on the first day that we met as a group back in 2011. These are some of the same images I showed them. And on several faces around the room, I saw a look of concern, but also relief. What we discussed that day was the fact that these issues that they were confronting on the streets of Haiti weren't another example of, oh, Haiti struggles with that. This was a problem everywhere. All the more reason to act. That is what brings us to the idea of appropriate technology, and ultimately this case study. Appropriate technology, also called design for the other 90%, is user-driven and so it responds directly to the needs on the ground. In this case, it's about applying ingenuity and innovation to repurpose a historically difficult to recycle material for beneficial use, all while building capacity and generating income at the local level. The technology itself is also completely open source, which means that anyone can have access and can make changes or improvements. To go from a discarded tray to a home obviously involves several steps, and we begin with base material. Most meals in Haiti are eaten off of these single-use polystyrene clamshell containers. These trays pose many problems, such as ending up in the canals or being burned in the streets. However, a case can be made for the single-use system in terms of combating disease. It's just one part of the puzzle. And of course, I'm not advocating for polystyrene here, but the point is that the issue is multifaceted. These trays are imported, they're in heavy use, and they're not dealt with responsibly beyond the end user. But they're also clean and cheap when you're hungry, and that reality can't be ignored. As seen earlier in the photo of the canal, there appears to be limitless quantities of waste polystyrene available in the streets. However, how do you bring that in a way that's cost-effective? Using an active collection model, we established a collection network that attributed a value to the polystyrene, and we pay out a price per pound. We also partnered with established recyclers who integrated the waste into their waste stream diversion, and we purchased from them. Further to the active collection, we also developed point-of-use passive collection systems. There's a big difference in processing a tray that someone just ate a meal off of or one that has spent any length of time in the streets or the canals. So with the right initiatives, the idea is that the trays never hit the ground. Once collected, the polystyrene is processed into blocks. The versatility of the processing equipment allows for small regional production through satellite facilities and equipment libraries. As the project progressed, we established a processing facility in Port-au-Prince, and there's always been an interest in increasing production by using a more automated system. However, that inevitably brings us back to using fossil fuels and cutting jobs. We remain focused on hand-powered equipment that is easily built, easily maintained, and easily used. The material goes through cleaning and shredding, then is packed into woven rice bags. Then it's all compressed using a hand-powered steel press and secured with wire. And the block is then ready to use. I'll just skip past the building technology itself, as I believe I am running out of time. It is important to note that this technology was tested on a shake table, and it passed with flying colors, as well as for hurricane resistance. Based on that testing, we're comfortable with the 240 square foot design, but further analysis and engineering is required to build beyond that. This proof of concept build was done in 2012. It's 240 square feet and contains approximately 25,000 trays. It's also finished with a conventional cement plaster, so the structure does not carry the stigma of trash. To date, there are 5 structures currently in use in Haiti. I'm missing one photo here. On the upper right is a prototype toilet stall, and the other properties are residential. Due, of course, to the polystyrene, a feature of these homes is the high insulation, and it's noticeably cooler when you walk inside. So when you walk into a building that's made of trash and you instantly want to be there, we think that's a legitimate step forward. In summary, I'll provide this example. Across sectors and industries, when it comes to decision-making, one of the options we often evaluate is to do nothing. What is the cost of doing nothing? In Haiti, this is the cost of doing nothing. So what we have here is a small-scale but promising avenue towards a different tomorrow. As per the panel's format, I'll take questions after. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. Next is Jeff Dirks. Jeff is a co-founding partner of KBL, an environmental company providing industrial waste management, infrastructure abatement and demolition, and contaminated site remediation. Jeff provides leadership through vision and by continually seeking new opportunities by identifying industry needs, emerging markets, and assessing new technologies or concepts to provide unique solutions to service industry needs. And Jeff is here to tell us more about KBL. Jeff.
Thanks for the introduction. Here to talk about a technology that we developed over the course of the last 24 months and have effectively commercialized it over the last 12 months. And it's recycling of latex paint. So a bit of background, latex paint now makes up more than 90% of paint products sold on the market. Traditional recycling or reuse options, generally through designated material regulations, was to, so in layman's terms, clean and blend the paint into sort of an eco product. So some of the limitations of that technology is the blending and reuse. Blending and reuse was the only practical option to date, and of the 100% of the material that was received inbound, there was still a large majority of the material that would be solidified with solidification agents such as sawdust and then sent to landfill, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40%. So we sort of targeted that 30% of the residual material and said, is there a better option for the non-reusable material? So we partnered with a industry expert in the sort of the cement world who focused on providing either alternative fuels to cement plants throughout North America or else alternative feedstocks for cement kilns, effectively reducing the amount of native material taken from our environment. So a bit of background on cement manufacturing. Production of cement starts by combining a number of materials, if you will, silica, alumina, iron, and lime. So to produce good quality cement, the proportions of each chemical component needs to be pretty exact. So to source these materials, conventionally it's been a lot of sort of natural sources, so a lot of quarrying of materials. It could be clay, it could be rock that contains the particular elements of need, and more recently, I'd say in the last 20 years, there's been a lot of drive for these cement manufacturers to find alternative materials, generally by the way of waste. And for them, it reduces costs, so they don't have to quarry virgin materials, and generally they can drive a tipping fee, so there's a bit of an economic gain for them as well. So one thing that we started to delve into is what are the chemical components of latex paint. So approximately 53% of latex paint is silica, approximately 18% is alumina, approximately 4% iron, and approximately 11% lime. So roughly 86% of latex paint is actually raw feedstock for a cement operation. So there's a high amount of beneficial reuse that could be effectively used in cement. I'll get to it, but one of the key issues that we encountered as part of the development is generally speaking, or almost always speaking, the feedstock is a dry material. It's not a wet material. So here's what we do, and this is sort of our commercial application, is we effectively bring in crates or totes of paint cans from eco facilities, roundups, etc., and the material is dumped by color into larger means of containment. So that's generally an 1,100 liter tote. Generally speaking, 60 to 70% of the material meets the criteria that can be further processed and converted into an eco paint. And that 30 to 40% is also bulked, but set aside as an item for future disposal. So this is sort of the key of what we developed to drive a higher environmental outcome is converting the, once we learned and worked through the protocol with a particular cement manufacturer on an international, platform, we needed to convert the latex paint. So we started searching for waste streams that we could effectively blend the paint with. And we found in our mind an even more novel or unique opportunity, and that was mining coal ash from our coal generating stations here in Alberta, which has high aluminum content, which is another feedstock for cement kilns. And we effectively are mining a landfill, eliminating a liability. We're mixing that liability with the residual latex paint that cannot be reused, which is sort of the highest environmental outcome on the 4 Rs, and then creating our reusable or recyclable product that can be incorporated into cement kiln operations. So recycling by the numbers. We've commercialized this approximately 12 months ago. So in our first year of operation, we converted roughly 700,000 liters of paint into a cement feedstock, diverting it from landfill. We then we realized that we were only effectively recycling the latex paint, and we wanted to try and achieve a higher environmental outcome. And that higher environmental outcome was effectively pairing our technology with the reuse of the paint on the front end. So at the onset of this, we were just reusing or recycling the material in cement kiln operations and not converting that reusable material into an eco paint. So we partnered with a company in Alberta called Calla Environmental, who had the IP in creating the eco paint. And then we rebranded the joint venture company Renew Recycling. Today, we're now processing collected paints from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, the Northwest Territories, the Yukon Territory, and approximately 30% of the residual material from BC. I say that noting that approximately 3 months ago, all the material from Manitoba, Saskatchewan was going to the US, and the 30% out of BC was going into landfills in Washington State. So Renew Recycling is projected to reuse or recycle 1.5 million liters of latex paint in our year 2 of our operations. We're effectively servicing all of Western Canada and most of Northern Canada. And of that 1.5 million liters, approximately half of it is being reused as eco paint. Approximately half of it is being recycled into a raw feedstock for cement kiln operations. So conclusion. We developed a process to divert a material from a landfill. We're creating an ability to truly reuse and recycle greater than 95% of this waste stream, including the plastic from the cans, the handles, the metal, etc. We provide an alternative feedstock for the cement manufacturing industry, and we're providing the highest environmental outcome for this material, not the most cost-effective solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Now we have the last speaker in our innovations panel. The last speaker is Melissa Grigory. Melissa is an environmental lawyer who has worked with all levels of government to push for policy and law reform. She has volunteered with numerous social justice and environmental organizations over the last decade, which has provided her with a wealth of experience in not-for-profit governance. Melissa co-founded Waste Free Edmonton, working with citizens, government, and businesses to reduce waste in her city. Come on up, Melissa. Thank you.
Thanks all, and thanks for sticking with the program, being the last speaker and remembering what Ruben said about us only having so much mental space. I hope you still have some left in your brain to hear what I'm talking about today. So, clicker. Yeah, I'm here to talk about kind of revisioning our relationship with waste. And I think it was Jody who said kind of at the start of the conversation about needing to shake up the status quo. And that's really what our organization is kind of interested in doing. So Waste Edmonton, we're a grassroots organization founded last year. Here's some of our team members. Our mandate is really to significantly reduce the amount of waste being created in Edmonton. Not so much diverted, but created, and I'll talk about that a bit more. Waste is a huge issue. It means a lot of things, and we're a small organization, so our main focus to start has been on the single-use plastic issue. We've all talked about this to death. I think we all understand the depth of the problem, but I just like this graph because it shows the sharp increase in our use of plastics over the last decade or so, and half of that amount of 400 million tons a year is single-use items. So we can just see that we're consuming these products at an increasingly unsustainable rate. We've also already talked about the life cycle impacts of single-use items, but I like just remembering the fact that when we see that bottle or that bag, that we consider all that went into it, the extraction, the resources, the creation of the product, and ultimately the disposal, and keeping that full life cycle idea every time we are purchasing or using an item, and kind of thinking whether it's worth the waste. We're at a recycling conference, but also we recognize that RCA is really broadening the conversation beyond just recycling. And we're really interested in, obviously recycling is important, but viewing it as a last resort, like someone else said, it being a Band-Aid on a big cut. And so remembering the fact that most single-use plastic is not recyclable, whether it's not physically possible or a market for it. The reality of downcycling, and that you can't just keep recycling the same item over and over again. You might end up with a park bench after recycling it once or twice, but then ultimately it ends up in the landfill. So in any event, even if we came up with great technologies that can do better at recycling, the scale of the problem is so huge. The increase that we're seeing in the amount of plastic we're producing, we just can't keep up. We really can't recycle our way out of this problem. I also just want to mention green substitutes and the need to be cautious around the ones that have the nice green leaf on it and feeling like you're doing a good thing using that. Being very cautious about whether these are actually better alternatives than plastics and how they interact with the environment. And certified compostable is one option, but it has to go to a commercial composting facility. So to be careful when you're thinking about alternatives. Our position is really the best is reusables. The waste reduction hierarchy has been shown a lot. Our position really is, are we innovative in the sense that we're really talking about reduction? And it's been mentioned a lot at this conference, but breaking down what that actually means, what does that look like? We all kind of agree, yes, we should reduce, but what are the practices and policies and procedures that are gonna actually get us there? And that's what we're really interested in as an organization. And so we feel like we're being innovative in the sense that we're looking at just producing and consuming less stuff at the front end and not so much worrying about, we obviously have to worry about diverting what we're producing, there's lots of it, but if we can start tackling at the front end with reduce and reuse and not having so much to divert at the end, technology is great and diversion is important, but really focusing on that front end as part of an important waste solution. So what are we doing? Waste Edmonton has a bit of a three-pronged approach. We are working with businesses. We have information about how they can reduce their waste. We had a last straw campaign with Plastic Free YYC last year where we won and got the most businesses agreeing to go straw-free. Generally, the idea of working with them to encourage reusables, whether it's containers or bags or cups, or charging a fee when people do use disposable items. And we have a bit of a team that's working in that regard. Individuals, we do a lot of work with giving presentations, having meetups, and helping educate people about what they can do individually to reduce their waste footprint. Reusables is obviously a big one we're all aware of. We see them all around here, which is great. I like this middle one because it talks about refusing single use, reducing our consumption, and reusing everything. And really that being a key of what our message is that we're trying to put forward. I also love this final quote here is, the most sustainable product is the one we choose not to buy. And if we could all just stop buying so much and being very cognizant, whether it's single use or other items, we started this organization because single use seems like such kind of the lowest hanging fruit and the one that the most egregious one that we should be able to tackle. But we're using it as part of a bigger conversation about reconsidering our choices and our relationship to the items we use and the ultimate ending up in landfills and that connection between production, consumption, and waste. This is just to show, we have a new school program. I loved hearing those students speaking earlier. It almost made me tear up, seeing their energy, and that's what we're trying to do in Edmonton with our school program that we're starting up. This is just an example of a documentary night we hosted. We really want to get more than just individuals doing great things on their own, but engaging at a community level to create that momentum and that community level change, so that we can do things like government relations, which is one of our big pushes, is the single-use plastic bylaw that we've been working on for over a year. And there's a petition that we've had. I know Ruben said maybe petitions aren't always the best thing, but we've seen a lot of success in using this to demonstrate to Edmonton councillors that people want action on this issue. They want a single-use bylaw. And so we've spoken to City Council a couple of times. We have resources that are available for decision makers that set out what's been done in the past in other jurisdictions, their effectiveness that was quoted in a recent City of Edmonton report. We have a policy framework that we've put forward on single-use items that we're happy to share with other municipalities to, based on my years of experience as 10 years as an environmental lawyer and all the research we've done. And this is just a little plug of the fact that, plastic laws are all over the world, and this is just a sampling of what's happening in Canada. It's really growing, and so it's not reinventing the wheel, it's just kind of getting on board with what others have done around the world. And finally, just want to mention, another thing that we want to talk about as an organization and start promoting is the, related to the EPR discussion, is generally the corporate responsibility for things. And it's not just about individuals having to focus so much on whether they're recycling better or what they're consuming, but how the systems are set up to work against us, and that you can't go into a grocery store and buy fruit or veggie because they're all in plastic, and those kind of things. So producer responsibility, right to repair, making things that last longer. So it's all part of the bigger system that we're working towards, changing the system and the throwaway culture that we have. And so that's us. And I'm so happy that I was asked to come and speak, and I hope that some of you will come and talk to me after about the work we're doing, because it's something that I'm very passionate about. I do it as a volunteer basis off the side of my actual paid job because I'm so passionate about this. So thank you very much, and my time is up.
Well, that brings us to the close of our Innovations panel and the Sea of Change conference. So please join me once again in thanking all of our innovators for sharing their very fascinating stories with us. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lorenzo. I'm currently sitting as the Vice President of the RCA. It's my sad duty to bring this to a close. A couple of housekeeping items first. If anyone sees Terry Vickers, or if he's in the room, if you could please see Christina Seidel. She has a message for him. If you see Terry, please pass that along. As well, if anyone lost a cell phone, it is at the front desk. So we found that. And if anyone happened to break some glasses, I repaired them, and they're here. I found them broken. So, I love my super glue. I don't love it as much as shampoo. Even bald guys apparently love shampoo. I may find out about that one day. We'll see. I'd really like to thank the Fairmont. They've been wonderful hosts for us, as usual. Jasper Park Lodge is really a treat to be here. It's a pleasure. I thought the food was excellent, especially last night's meal was wonderful. I'd like to thank you all very much for coming and for your support for the RCA. I'd like to thank our President Jody for all her hard work over the last year. And we're very sad to see 3 of our members departing, and we wish them the very best, Mason, Jen, and Jesse. So thank you all very much, and hopefully you'll rejoin the organization in future years. So I'd like to give you all a hand, and to the board, and to Christina, and the Jasper Park Lodge, please travel safely.